Unicode. That's the ability to put little symbols into your measures, right? Move away from just text or just numbers, put symbols in. What are the benefits? How can it help you? Alright lads and lasses, welcome along. Weekend work. Now, one of the things that we need to talk through and look at is Unicode characters in your measures. So it's possible to make your measures do more than just show numbers. Now the main benefit of that is if you think about an accessible report, not all your people who view it are going to have, say, full colour vision. You know, you might have some people who are colourblind or who struggle to differentiate between colours. So it's better to be able to use Unicode characters to help augment a measure and make a measure a little bit more accessible. Unicode goes a long way when you're starting to put things onto a dashboard where you're actually starting to say, right, how can we quickly draw people's attention that this is something or that there's an issue here? And you can combine that with colour, so you can do that. Obviously, you know, the vast majority of your audience is more than likely to have full colour vision of some description. I still don't know if like blue and my blue and your blue are the same or anything like that. I'm sure there's a whole argument we could get into with that. But the main thing with this is it enables your reports to take on that next level. So tell you what, let's cut an hour into Power BI Desktop and have a look at the measure that we dropped on you a couple of weeks ago. Champion. Alright, so here's the measure here. It looks a lot worse than it really is, okay? Really all we're doing with this is trying to work out if something's red, green or amber in terms of its status, so a KPI. So what we'd probably look to do would be to build a proper KPI for this, and we'll go over and we'll develop a KPI for this very measure next week. So come back next week and we'll actually go through the whole process of putting up a KPI because it needs to be using the external tools. But I thought I'll go over this one and we'll have a look and see what I've done and you can be a bit more aware of what's happening. So what we're looking at here is we've set up this start and a test measure. Yeah, so it's basically a nominator and a denominator, really, build. So we're going to end up with a percentage. So it's what percentage of our buildings in this area are overdue. So they haven't had an inspection yet in, well, this year or last year. So they're overdue, definitely. What we wanted to show was that we could see what's actually happening at quite a basic level that I could see here. The normal pattern would be to do some logic on it and say, right, well, if the overdue status is, if the status is red, make it red. If it's amber, make it amber. If it's, make it red, yeah? And we've got it all written up here. So we've got a red state and a green state. And I think we're kind of doing all right with it. It's, I don't know. It's one of those things, though, that you, over time, we'd look to dial it in. What is right for our overdue percentage when it's fine? You know, is there something that we should be, obviously we'd want nothing, but with COVID last year, potentially a lot of places didn't get inspections. You know, we did the video, didn't we, on John Wick and across the road from the Continental, it's not been inspected. It's actually a post office, so it might have been closed the whole period. I don't know. I'm obviously not living in New York to find out. What we can do, though, is this very easily allows us to return just a value, right, in terms of as a Unicode character. So if on here, let's make some space and let's just drop that measure in. Okay, and it'll need to be as a card. So you can see card here, exclamation mark, which goes with that. So what we can see here is this dashboard buildings measure that we've written. All it's doing is combining the two. And the reality for you is that what you'd probably look to do is to have three measures or three items. And this is why we'll do the KPIs next week, because the KPI introduces a state measure as one of the things it builds. So you have a state, and that's what we need. So we've written this overdue state that is just producing this this character set. But what we could do is we could bring this back and we could create a new measure, paste it down, I'll put status. So this is going to be, tell you what, achieved is green, isn't it? Yeah, green, amber, red. Okay, that shouldn't be capital, should it? Let's put that as lowercase. So we've now got a status column. Now what I've done with this is, obviously it's the same, isn't it? So if we bring this in and we make this that status, you see it. So you see it's brought through this R. So it's going to allow us to start to build up the process. And because you've got a status, you can then hang that status or use that status for everything else. And that's where these switch statements come through. Which is why we've done switch statements, we've done lots of stuff around this. We need to get comfortable with what's actually happening here. Because once you start to use your KPIs properly, you will be able to then put in UNICHAR characters to go onto the end or in front of, prefix at the end of your values, so that when you put a card in, there's the card. You can then use the same structure to build up a color metric. So instead of this being UNICHAR, it's going to return like a hex code for a color. So you could go through, find your corporate red, find your corporate amber, find your corporate green, and put those hex colors together, and then it all hangs off the status, and we'll cover all that next week. Okay, so you've seen roughly how it works. This is something you do need to get comfortable with. And one thing that I will add to this is, as your measure complexity grows, so like here we've got quite a lot of it, get into the habit of using variables, because with a variable you can return any of those variables and just test out, is that bit doing what we need it to do? Is this bit doing what we need it to do? So for example, I could turn around here and say, right, let's just return strt, okay, and show me what that looks like. So when I come back to here, you'll see I get something different. Okay, so it's going to return the number, which is what we would expect, isn't it? So it does work very well doing this, and this capability and being able to slowly build up and write your measures makes things much simpler for you going forward. Okay, because your measures will take time to dial in, especially as the complexity goes up. But we'll cover that all next week. So what do you reckon then? The capability of Unicode is amazing. Okay, lists of Unicode characters are available, and there'll be a link down below to where you can have a look at them. Right, they're not the most accessible, I'll be the first to admit. Right, the one I've put in, there's a search function to it. Have a search for it. As a note, some Unicode characters do have a color as part of them, like they've got coloring, and you cannot change the color of those. So it's definitely one to be aware of. From a this is my business perspective, start to make lists of Unicode characters and share them with your community. What's a good one to use? If you get a consistent tick, right, that helps your community to then look and see reports and go, oh, that's a tick. Right? Consistency is everything, especially as we start to talk about data literacy. If people have to scratch their heads, I don't understand, I'm not quite sure what he's saying there, right, you have a problem. You want people to be able to look and see, right, this is what's happening in the report very quickly and very easily. You want to keep things simple and layer things down. So your main dashboard is simple, just very high level. Drilling down then enables people to get that next level down. And then from there, they can carry on drilling down. Yeah? So anyway, don't forget, head on over to geordieintelligence.co.uk, become a member. We've got our free membership, we've got all our membership tiers there. Hey, enroll on some of the courses. We've got some great stuff going, got some great courses coming in the future. Hey, you know, everything you can do to help support the channel, it makes a big difference. For now though, stay safe, take care of yourselves. Ta-da.